If you have watched Alice in Wonderland, you must have been deeply impressed by the Red Queen. In the film, the Red Queen is a character from Disney, known for her fiery personality as intense as strong liquor. She often shouts about beheading people and enjoys using pig bellies as footstools. Her eccentric nature is full of drama. In reality, the character of the Red Queen was inspired by Mary I of the Tudor dynasty. Her strong advocacy for Catholicism directly clashed with the Protestant beliefs promoted by her father, Henry VIII, shaping her rigid and unforgiving personality. Upon gaining power, Mary I sought to restore papal supremacy in England. She viewed Protestantism as a direct challenge to her authority, considering it both a religious and civil crime, tantamount to treason. As a result, she persecuted Protestants, and during her 5-year reign, over 300 people were burned at the stake. This led to her infamous nickname, Bloody Mary. The urban legend of Bloody Mary also draws inspiration from parts of her life. The legend of Bloody Mary has influenced many areas. When a bartender accidentally mixed a red-colored cocktail, he was reminded of her and named the drink Bloody Mary. Later, biologist L. Van Valen, while drinking a Bloody Mary, pondered the nature of evolution and proposed the Red Queen hypothesis. The Red Queen's famous quote, "It takes all the running you can do to keep in the same place," was adopted by Van Valen to describe biological evolution, stating that all species must constantly adapt and evolve, or they will be outcompeted and perish in a changing environment. The legend of Bloody Mary has had a widespread influence, with at least 50 different versions of its origin in Western folklore. According to legend, summoning Bloody Mary grants a glimpse into the future. It is said that if you call her name 3 times in front of a mirror, she will appear. Sometimes she is harmless. You will simply see her reflection in the mirror, and she may answer your questions. Other times, she is terrifyingly vicious, clawing at people with her nails, tearing off their faces with fangs, driving them to death or suicide. She is also believed to trap people inside mirrors and is infamous for gouging out eyes. Different versions of the story vary in details, but she frequently appears in multiplayer games popular among Western teenagers, such as Truth or Dare. In history, some young women in certain countries followed a traditional ritual. In a dark room, they would hold a candle in one hand and a handheld mirror in the other while walking up a staircase. As they gazed into the mirror, they were believed to catch a glimpse of their future husband's face. However, if they saw a skull instead, it was said to foretell their death before marriage. Bloody Mary is often depicted as a corpse, a witch, or a blood-soaked ghost. If the summoning ritual is performed correctly, the spirit is said to scream at participants, torment them, strangle them, steal their flesh or soul, drink their blood, or gouge out their eyes. The essential elements of the ritual always include a mirror in a dark room and the exact repetition of her name. Some versions claim that Bloody Mary only appears on specific days, while others suggest additional steps, such as splashing water on the mirror, rubbing one's eyes, or holding a knife. Another version of the legend claims that simply walking to a mirror in the dark, whether or not you intentionally summon her, is enough for Bloody Mary to find you. Some say that summoning her won't make anyone appear, but instead, the water in the bathtub will turn to blood. Mysterious wounds will appear on your body, or you will receive a vision of the future. Some rituals also involve lighting a candle, spinning in circles, or holding the candle in hand. Candles have long been associated with magic. Spinning in circles resembles the casting of ancient spells, while also disorienting the participant. And holding a candle is a common method in summoning rituals. Another reason why Bloody Mary is linked to necromantic rituals is that there was another historical figure who bore the title Bloody Mary, the Hungarian Countess Elizabeth Báthory. She was a noblewoman from one of the wealthiest and most influential families in Hungary. From the age of 4, Elizabeth suffered from sudden epileptic seizures. This countess was also a textbook example of a bloodthirsty, ruthless killer. In her early 20s, Elizabeth, possibly out of boredom, discovered the twisted pleasure of torturing her servants. Her victims were mainly young teenage girls. She would use red-hot pincers to tear their flesh, burn them over open flames, or subject them to a gruesome punishment known as star-kicking. All the while, Elizabeth would stand by, watching her victims suffer. One day, while a maid was brushing Elizabeth's hair, she accidentally pulled too hard and yanked out a few strands. Enraged, Elizabeth slapped the girl so violently that the maid's blood splattered onto her face. As she went to wipe it away, she noticed that the skin touched by the blood appeared smoother and fairer, just like it had been in her youth. Intrigued, she consulted her 3 closest accomplices, 3 witches named Darvulia, Helena Jo, and Dorka. The witches convinced her that the blood of virgins was the legendary fountain of youth, capable of restoring a person's youth and vitality. Believing this, Elizabeth ordered the maid's throat to be slit, and her fresh blood was drained into a massive tub. Elizabeth then bathed in the still warm blood. Thus, a horrifying ritual began. Hundreds of young girls were kidnapped and brought to Elizabeth's castle, where their blood was drained. Elizabeth was known to bite the necks and chests of her victims, drinking their blood directly from the wounds and even tearing off pieces of flesh to eat. She commissioned a German blacksmith to craft a full set of torture devices, and before long, in the dungeons of Chaktich Castle, where she spent most of her adult life, a grand execution chamber was built. Elizabeth's reign of terror lasted for many years. The death toll had reached the hundreds, yet no one dared to expose the countess's atrocities. Even the clergy, who were supposed to uphold justice and peace, remained silent. Eventually, a priest reported the matter to King Matthias II of Hungary, who launched an investigation into Elizabeth's crimes. When the authorities arrived at the castle, what they discovered was far worse than they had imagined. A dead girl lay in the hall. Another victim, barely clinging to life, was covered in puncture wounds. In the dungeon, bodies hung from the ceiling like slaughtered deer, their blood draining into the now legendary bloodbath. Over 50 corpses were unearthed from beneath the castle, and on Elizabeth's desk, investigators found a ledger listing the names of 650 murdered girls. Elizabeth's accomplices met a gruesome fate. Dorka and Helena Jo, the blood-stained witches, had their fingers torn off with red-hot pincers before being thrown into a fire. Another witch, Ersi Majorova, was later beheaded. However, Elizabeth, protected by her noble status, avoided execution. Instead, she was confined to a small, walled-off room with only tiny openings for air and food. The tower where she was imprisoned still stands today in what is now Slovakia. A transcript of her sentencing is preserved in the Hungarian National Archives in Budapest. Even today, the legend of Bloody Mary continues to inspire horror films. The countless adaptations and stories based on her myth highlight her influence on modern Western entertainment culture. Many young people still perform the Bloody Mary ritual as a dare, walking toward a mirror in a dark corridor, holding a candle and a handheld mirror, and chanting Bloody Mary 3 times. For those with a fragile mind, such an act can amplify their deepest fears. It is strongly advised not to attempt this ritual. Throughout history, many cruel women have contributed to the Bloody Mary legend. In an era when information traveled slowly, their horrifying deeds left an indelible mark on the collective memory of the people. Over time, their stories became the foundation for numerous artistic works, making the Bloody Mary myth one of the most successful examples of classic cultural storytelling.